Welcome to the Real Journey of the Entrepreneur. The journey of any entrepreneur begins with a decision, then writing down your vision, then the execution of that vision. It is not for the faint of heart. It is for those who understand how powerful your mind is and that you can truly create the life that you deserve. It does require a unique formula that includes belief in yourself, a lot of consistency, connecting with an OG, a lot of tears, missing out on a few events and things, and taking a whole lot of risks that will allow you to see your vision and dream come to pass. This journey of the entrepreneur is from the perspective of a wonderful mother, a business owner, whose goal is to break generational barriers and normalize the process of wealth building and financial wellness through entrepreneurship, all while creating a social and give back along the way. I am sharing this journey with you and invite you to share this process with me. Let's do this together. It's my own, but you have to feel comfortable to own it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? I will always support you.
Thank you.
I tried to stand tall, but I never stood a chance. How selfish of me to want them to see me as I am.
I'm over this, man.
I can see the envy from under the mask they're in. How could I expect a pat on the back in a place they wanted to stab
What are you
me?
talking about specifically?
Why do I wish temporary feelings could last again? Why does my future need me to refer to the past again? Naysayers checking in by the minute. It's eating up in my time. And then they always need me to paint a picture after I draw the line. I'm sorry. I drifted from the question.
No problem at all.
Therapy is new for me. I don't think I've ever had a conversation that I felt included me.
Well, that's why we're
It's
here.
like we define things that exist without meaning. But getting back to your question, you asked, what am I thinking?
Yes.
I think so freely as I stare at this ceiling. I think the poison replaced what's meant for healing. I think depression is on the other side of elevating. I think depression hides inside those that are celebrating.
I can see that.
I think the bars that we're rapping are building our own cage. I think my father never thought about me. And what do I feel? I think rage. I think everyone around me can hear what I'm thinking, so I never blink once or think twice about over drinking.
Let's calm down.
I think it's
Settle
humble
down.
of me to say that I'm the greatest. I
There's
think
nothing
so
wrong with
much of
being
me,
confident.
but I'm taught to never say it. I think my identity exists with multiple borders, but when they can't understand it, it's labeled a disorder.
I understand,
I
but
think the
let's
media
calm
and my
down.
social life are at a point of no return. I think they're entitled to just people that never even learn to earn.
Mr. Calm down.
I think truth
Calm down.
is one thing that I know.
Let me ask you this question.
If everything you think is true, how will you ever grow? I never thought about that. Probably for my own protection. It's funny how a view of yourself can be shattered by your own reflection.
Welcome to our fourth annual Full Circle Business Brunch.
This room is small enough but big enough that you can connect with someone. And that is the intention of the Full Circle Business Brunch experience. Being in business is not a competition. We all can win at all levels.
We come from a lot of poverty. How do you break out of a scarcity mindset as a small business?
If you keep it positive, positive will always keep you. The idea that I'm always broke, I never have enough money. You can easily say, I don't have enough money yet. And that changes how you then move forward with your next financial decision.
I'm here to help educate you all on things that you may not have known about, because we find that there's a lot of suffering that goes on when people don't know about stuff.
When you're entering into a business relationship, it's still a relationship. So you want to maintain a good rapport with whoever it is that you're transacting with. You're hiring an attorney to not only protect you, but to also be the bad guy in certain situations.
We can help you connect to people who are looking for jobs. We have 200,000 people in our job bank. We're here to help the businesses out there. We're doing really the heavy lifting in our economy.
This is my fourth time attending this event. Each year it gets better and better. And it's really inspiring to see what she's doing for the community and working with the youth.
Why I wanted to start my business is because my mom was working too hard, right? I want to have my own business, my own clothing to wear on the street.
This is an amazing, amazing event with lots of knowledge for business owners, business starters, and just who's thinking about getting in the industry. Hope this continues to be an annual event for those who want to learn more about business and get into the business space.
Thank you for being a part of this transformational experience.
A brighter day tomorrow will bring. Oh.
I'm back, good people. I am back. I am back. I am back. Welcome to another episode of the Real Journey of Entrepreneurship. My name is Anita Pierce, and I'm the host and producer of this broadcast. I'm also the founder and CEO of a business consultancy, 11375, where we connect the dots and share resources with small businesses. And today, I am uber excited, right? So I love when I get to connect virtually in person with individuals who have the courage to share their journey. As I mentioned in the video, entrepreneurship is not for the faint of heart. It does require you to have a deeper connection with your purpose, your why, because in times such as now, there's a lot of uncertainty. And sometimes you may figure out, is this what I'm supposed to be doing? Am I supposed to be doing this, right? And one of the things that I've discovered in unpacking this space is about anchoring yourself within your purpose for you, right? That keeps you stable, strategic, and in alignment with what it is that you're supposed to be doing. And I want to say that this episode today is about every leader and also individuals who have ever carried the weight of what it means to be in the space of entrepreneurship and also navigating different spaces, but always consistently and intentionally learning to maintain your wellness as a leader. Because one of the things that I've personally discovered, and my next guest is going to lean in on that, is about deeply understanding your impact as a leader and how you're able to be well, take care of yourself in order to better serve out your purpose. So I'm honored to sit down today with whom I consider a guru, not I, a guru, in the space of wellness. Lauren Wells is the founder of Hervival. And when Lauren gets on, Lauren is going to tell you more about her specific impact. But it's connected, her work is connected to wellness-driven leadership. And it's not just about the talk, it's about training us leaders to consistently perform and be well, right? Reclaiming, rebuilding confidence in ourselves and in our purpose and in our lives. But I can tell you that from what I know of, what I've been reading, what I've been stalking on the social platforms, is that Lauren is deep rooted in truth and that wellness and leadership is not optional, right? So it can't really exist without the other. You have to be well to take care of yourself. And today, one of the topics is overall wellness and being an overall well leader. So, Lauren.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for joining.
Yes.
How you doing today?
I am pretty good. Excited to be here.
All right, Lauren.
This is a necessary conversation, but you have me cackling in the back.
Said the necessary. It's the necessary. All right, Lauren. So we are going to be unpacking what that really looks like for you. But before we unpack that, do tell who you are, what you do, how you are engaged in your purpose in this space.
Yes. So, hello, everyone. I am Lauren Wells. I am the founder of Hervival. But I first and foremost, I always say I am my first client. I walk, live, talk, breathe the life of caring of myself. I consider myself they call me the gut health bestie and the breathwork sis. All things holistic living. I have learned to live and breathe this over the last decade and a half, 14, 15 years at this point. But I am really driven by just being rooted and grounded into self-perseverance. So I think that's what led me to a lot of the work that I do. And then as I've had many different experiences within the health and wellness space, first starting as a fitness trainer today, of the last 5 years, I founded Hervival, which is a transformative holistic wellness and leadership development company that is dedicated to empowering individuals and organizations through coaching, workshop, wellness solutions that promote stress management, help prevent burnout, and enhancing overall well-being, in the sense of sharing how much wellness and leadership is interconnected to productivity and resiliency. So it's been a big, bold pleasure to walk this path and do this work, because as I'm being led on this path, it continues to raise the veil and show me of how much this work is needed for my own, as well as just continuing to bring the herd along the way. You know what I mean? So each path that I've continued to explore and learn has been from my own personal story, my own personal challenges. And as I learn, we were talking a little bit earlier about gatekeeping. I'm not the gatekeeper. So my personal journey really led me and moved me towards founding Hervival, which is just deeply rooted in my own lifelong commitment and path of health, wellness, and resiliency.
All right, Lauren. Okay, so let me do the setup, right? So I want you to define for the audience how does wellness and centered leadership or entrepreneurship. Let's put a definition behind that from your perspective.
So my definition of wellness and leadership, like I said, they weave and feed into each other, because how can you be a great leader when you don't have a sound mind, or you have a chaotic mind? If you are burnt out, you're fatigued, you're tired, right? And when you're well, you're fueled up, right? So you have enough fuel in your tank from mental, physical, spiritual energy to be able to move forward. So over time, when I realized, I'm like, well, what did it take for me to build and do all of these things? And seeing the women that I've helped, like, I didn't calculate the two going together until I started seeing these women like, I got a promotion. I didn't do anything. They just saw what I was doing. I was working. I showed up. Before, I just didn't have the focus. I didn't have the energy. And then seeing how women that I've worked with over the years, some men too, have been able to have a larger capacity to the missions and the driven passions and things that they've been able to do. And then it just clicked like a light bulb. Like I was just like, why are we looking at these two as two separate spaces and containers? So for me, and there's a lot of science back behind it too. Like, you know, this is not just some theory of Lauren. Like it's a lot of, I'm very big on digging into science back at, you know, education, as well as my lived experience from myself to the people that I work with and serve and data. But my definition of the two is two dynamic duos of driven forces that feed into each other, that really pulls people from a space of just like the mundane surviving to actually thriving and having great leadership experience and impact.
So why do you believe so many entrepreneurs struggle with it? Leaders struggle with it?
I personally think because when you start in a business, it's not for the faint of hearts. And sometimes that wellness leadership, it's not always balanced, right? Until a lot of times people get burnt out, whether they're an entrepreneur or a working professional or a dualpreneur, doing both. A lot of times, especially in this world, in this capitalistic society that we're in, is driven by money. So we're always in that hustle, that go, you know, what we have to do, what we have to drive. We got the checklist and things have to get taken care of. That's put in the front, but we never look at who and what is the engine that has to get this going. So as much as we look at the checklist of, you know, deadlines and all that, we never take a self-inventory checklist of ourselves. Like, how well do you need to be to make sure that checklist is done? How well, you know, that you need to feel, how motivated you need. Like, we don't look at the energy behind that drives this money-making machine or these businesses, and until it's like it's burnt to the wire. So I personally think that, and a lot of that is getting challenged. Like I would say, like for me in business, pandemic was the best thing, because as much as I was hooping and hollering out here and sharing and educating about this, people didn't get it till the pandemic. Like when people had to finally, as a, like, not just in New York, not just in certain areas, like at globally, we literally sat down and sat still. And I think that's the biggest reason. None of us really had that time to sit down, sit still. We're always on the run. And when you're always on the run, you're not still to even see, you know, who you are, what you need to be. So I personally think that many people, but especially entrepreneurs, because entrepreneurship is also driven by money, and then it's also built on us that has to create it. We don't come out with a team and hiring people. Like, we literally are building it from the ground up. So there's so much that has to get done that sometimes ourselves and who we need to be and the sustainability of ourselves, our energy, our focus, and everything that we have to do gets put on the wayside, and we look at that after we get the money, after we make this so-called destination, and we burn out along the way.
So let me, because there are a couple of things that I heard you mention. You prioritize physical, mental, and spiritual. Mm-hmm. What are some of the warning signs that leaders, whether they have a job, dual entrepreneur working in the workforce, or they're simply in the workforce, what are some of the signs of burnout, survival mode, misalignment that you've noticed in working with your clients, but just from your overall research that you've identified?
Yeah, so I actually talk about this a lot in one of my workshops, Elevate from Burnout, and it's rooted from my framework, Elevate. But a lot of the signs of burnout, I talk about the unconscious signs of burnout. Mm-hmm. And a lot of them are literally your body knocking at the door. So there's three, is it three? Yeah. There's three aspects of how burnout shows up. It's physical. So it could be, you know, a lot of like, I don't have the energy, I'm fatigued, I'm tired, headaches, migraines, sleep issues, digestive problems. Digestive problems is a big one, which is why I started to get very curious, seeing it in my clients, even myself, with having a lot of like gut health issues and all of that. And I started understanding the gut and the brain. So that's physical, but there's emotional signs such as you're not motivated, you're very detached. I always like to joke and say, like, you know, for those who ever seen the classic Spike Lee movies, how you're just like floating and moving, and that's how you actually feel in life. Like you're detached, like you're just here, you're just showing up, you're emotionally numb. Those are big signs of burnout, irritability, anxiety, like cynicism, like all of those things. Like you don't have, especially if you're a person that has a spark and get excited, especially like if it is your work that you love or it is your business. Those are big things. Like when I see people like not show up as much or don't have that drive in their business, they could be going through burnout and not realize. I've personally went through that. So cynicism is a big one that, just emotionally not attached. So you have your physical, your emotional, and then you have behavioral. And a lot of that could be the big one that a lot of entrepreneurs scream and kick and cry about: procrastination. There's a reason to procrastination. You're not lazy. You wouldn't even start a business. You wouldn't even have those thoughts. So I'm here, and then that imposter syndrome stuff. I nip that stuff in the bud like quickly. And this is where I drive people to start understanding, like, are you stressed? What's on your plate? Are you delegating? Are you looking at those things? But yeah, the behavioral signs of burnout is like procrastination, lack of focus, common mistakes that just is increasing, especially if like you're good at this and you could do it with the back of your hand, and that multitasking feels very draining. So those are big signs that falls under the main, I would say, the main pillars of exhaustion when it comes to emotional, physical, and mental is those areas.
So couple of things that you mentioned, and thank you for sharing. But I want to plug out something about, so the obvious but not so obvious of burnout may be physical. And I'm saying that personally, because sometimes we just ignore like physical pain, right? And, I can think about times and I'm like, either from not moving right appropriately, that I'm, if I'm working on a project, I want to ensure that it's completed, to something that you mentioned about our gut health, digestive, right? So do we need to make a phone call, or do we really need to be tapped into our overall wellness? I want to expand on that because, sometimes we just ignore it as whatever. What are your thoughts on that?
Getting older. Yeah. I mean, I've been to that too. We just think like old age or, oh, I just need some sleep. Like we really put these things on like just kind of brush it over. Like it's almost like a fly in your face. Like, and there's a book I talk about everywhere I speak, everywhere I go, in my space, in my membership, in my community, working with clients. There's a book called The Body Keeps the Score. The title alone says it all. These little signs, you're getting sick a lot. I mean, there's other factors that's in place, like, medication, genetics, if you have like autoimmune, a lot of those things. Some of those issues were for me, like I had burnout for so long that I didn't realize that there was so much damage, to my gut health. And I had autoimmunes that, when it gets chronic, you end up living with chronic, ailments. Can it reverse? Can you learn to live with it? Absolutely. I'm a living testament of it. But I literally burned, like literally my stomach acid to the ground, all this stuff in the beginning of, going to college, my entrepreneurship journey. Like, I mean, I would literally get home at 11 o'clock at night, probably won't go to bed till 1. I'm up at 5, back at it, So of course I end up having these challenges and issues and stuff. And here I am 15 years later, learning to live with it and having to be very careful and delicate with it. But I'm here to share that it's important to pay attention, because all of these things our body is doing, telling, aches, pains, weakened immunity, all that is literally like knocks at the door and keeping score, So it's important for us to like not ignore it. Is it easy? It's easy to. I mean, there's times where I have to catch myself. Like, we were talking a little bit in the back behind, and I was like, I had to pause this year because this year was like going so fast and, trying to get things up off the ground. And I'm like, wait a minute, I ain't really took no time to rest or, I'm up late. Like I never used to be up late on my, my laptop. Once I learned these things, once you learn like what neglecting self-care looks like, once you learn, these different things. But yeah, these physical, like I say to my clients all the time, they now know, like they don't just take it as, oh, you know what? I've been getting it's because we're not present. There's so much power and presence and self-awareness from inside and outside. But the biggest part is start having that self-awareness and presence within yourself from, the way your body feels, the way you think, the way you move. So the more that we start doing that, and that's what Hervival is really about. That's what our community, our space, our membership is really about, is that power of leaning into yourself and having that sense of time and self-awareness. We never prioritize ourselves and our times. We prioritize it after all of our roles and our accolades and being a mom, a dad, or, all these things first, and then it's us. But what do they say? The most cliche thing they say when it's an airplane crashing is to put your your mask on first. Like we have to really it's critical that we literally operate like that in our lives. And one of my mentors told me something so long ago, maybe about 16, 18 years ago. And I didn't get it at first. And I get it so much now. Is he always says, how you do anything is how you do everything. So it's not like you just practice this in work or you just practice this here. Like how you do anything is how you do everything. Like I said, there's so much, if we just pause and look at so many aspects in our world and life, like using that statement of if the airplane's crashing, put your mask on first. You do that in your work. You do that when it comes to taking care of yourself and really paying attention to that emotional, physical, and behavioral aspects of ourselves that can lead to exhaustion. You have to put your mask on first. We might king pass a couple times, like, okay, I'll do it this weekend. I just got to get through this week. But listen, your body keeps the score and it will clock out when it needs to. Sometimes we move it too fast. And I always say, and I've asked me how I know. I know from personal experience, but I've learned to start making the mental shift and the paradigm shift on this by these things, like looking at I got to put my mask on first. And the more I keep not right now, I just got to do this. I consider it like swiping a credit card, right? And if you keep swiping that credit card, eventually you're going to get the bill, right? But we just don't want the bill to be like maxed out. Look at it the same way as your own selves, taking care of yourselves. But no, those changes and stuff like that is not something to take lightly. It's your body like knocking at that door.
And what a great segue. So let's talk about relationship building, right? So I have learned over the past 10 years specifically, and more so within the past 5 years, that if there is some sort of spidey tingling happening when I'm meeting someone virtually, I mean, you can get like a sense of genuineness virtually too as well, right? You can. I don't know how we do it, but we really can, right? But then as you are building to look for partners to work with, how does one apply what's your framework that you described, right, in terms of really prioritizing to leveraging relationships and knowing what is what from its opinion?
Can you ask that again?
Sure. How you know if people are real and that they have reasonable intentions? Is it this? Because I use my gut, right? That I use it more, or we call it, or it's known as intuition. I lean into that more so now than I did previously when building and leveraging relationships. What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah. So, you getting a little deep here. So, okay.
We got to,
right? And I love when this stuff gets asked and I can speak about it and it's open and received. And I've been told that I guess maybe this is the Taurus in me. I like to break things down as simple as possible. So I'm really good at like breaking things that seem very complex and making it like easily digestible, pun intended, with the gut health. So yes. All right. So there is, if we start understanding that there is a connection, like you just mentioned, gut instinct, right? And I remember like a long time ago, I think I was on a podcast and I spoke about this, like your gut instinct and your gut health does have some sense of connection. And whether people believe it or not, some people think it's so woo-woo, but there's a lot of science evidence back behind it. Look it up, do some research, but there is a lot of science back behind your gut health and your intuition and that gut brain axis connection. So I talk about like your gut and brain is connected, right? There's hormones, there's the gut health is the state of like your microbiome, like what good and bad bacteria is in there, but those are communicators, right? And they communicate, they transmit signals from your gut and brain back and forth to each other that helps to process emotions, decision making, like like when people have, those are signs for me about like what different signs that you ask. When I start getting executive decision fatigue, I'm always pulling back and be like, how have I been eating? What's my gut health looking like? Have I been taking my probiotics? Because those are things that makes me, and in the people in my community, my members, my client, my former clients, those are signs to be like, oh, you know what? I've been slipping a little bit. I haven't been doing this. When we notice that our decision making isn't like up to par. But like I said, there is science back behind that because of the different neurotransmitters that communicate from your gut and your brain. So, and that affects your mood and your energy, like, your serotonin, dopamine. These are like more of the happy hormones that affects your mood, your stress hormones. When there's any off balance that's going on, it almost turns off your signals. Like, so have you ever been in a situation where like you got sidetracked and you're like, I'm usually on top of that. Like, I don't usually let people like that get me in. And that's happened to me before. I always ask you to think about, was you stressed at that time? What was your eating looking like at that time? And a lot of times it's not always with the eating, it's the stress that really kills your gut health, like super, super big time. Like I have had clients that, or even just people, like I always joke and say my husband can sit here and what's the guy from Sesame Street, Oscar, that eats trash? I always joke. And I'm like, he can eat whatever, but his stress level, he's very good with like staying calm, cool, copacetic. And I'm like, he's always like, he never misses his game and he's always on point. And I was like, I get it. It's the stress level. Yes, your diet and all that is super important, but monitoring your stress really helps with like your decision making. So how do you really recognize and how's that connection with knowing who's real, who's not? This is why self-awareness and checking in with yourself and making sure that you provide yourself from what you need, monitoring your stress. This is why wellness and leadership plays together, right? If we're going to be better leaders, we need to have good instincts to know who to do business with. This is why the wellness and the two has to work together. If these things don't work together and you don't know how to really master it, you're not mastering leadership, in my opinion.
I feel seen right now. I feel seen. I do, because I often think about, I consider that I have some sort of magnet, right? I can think about when I was in, I went through the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Business Program in 23. And I was always, low key, but I always wanted to learn more about, the individuals and the other businesses that was in the cohort with me. What I discovered afterwards, right, is that a lot of folks appreciated me. And we would go out and link up afterwards. And I would always get that as direct feedback. And it would cause me concern. I'm going to tell you why concern, right? Because I would say, what type of energy or what am I emitting that, not that I don't think that I'm authentic and, is that like a real confirmation? Because the truth is, only when you spend real time with me do you really get to know who I am.
Yep.
So it was like, it was not that it wasn't true what they were saying, but I was also kind of conflicted because I'm like, we just met, you know, I don't know about you yet, but I guess what I was admitting in the universe is that that is genuinely who I am, and that I can essentially be trusted, I guess, in
Yeah.
this, that, if that makes sense.
No, I can attest to that right here. I've known you for what, maybe like a year and a half or so.
Yeah,
And I can fully attest to that. And what you're doing and what you're talking about, and which is why I started to, yes, I love talking about nutrition and gut health, but like I said, given the example and then just being with my husband all these years and really starting to pay attention and look, I was like, no, it's more about the stress. It's more about the intention. But what you're talking about, and which is why I started to share it and talk about it a lot, is mindfulness. Being very like mindful of, you know, who you are, where you stand, people you have around. And then there's many different practices, but even going back to what I was saying, like the connection with, you know, your gut and your mind and like instincts and all that, practicing certain practices that helps you to pause and reflect and really improve your, I would say, improve your intuition and resiliency, and as well as well-being, has a lot to do with practices like mindfulness and really holding back to see what's your placement in that. But that was like exactly for what you talk about, because I move around that same way too. Like I get some similar responses, but I'm very like kind of a little bit quiet, a little bit more in the background. Like I guess once you know me, or if I'm in spaces like this, I can come across extroverted, but I'm very introverted in my own way. But it's because I take that time to, I just think there's so much power in self-awareness from within yourself, as well as your connection in your environment. And that is a practice of mindfulness. Mindfulness, yes, is breathing, breath work, and all that, but pausing and being self-aware and really paying attention to like your own intuitive cues, that is a practice of like self-care right there. You know what I mean? Because you're being very careful of like who you are, the way you show up, and the people you have within your space, because all of that affects your own energy too.
It does. Oh my goodness. That yeah. I'd be like, I'm energy driven. They'd be like, what are you, like a what do you call
empath?
it? Right. I'll be like, no, I just be listening. You know, if it don't feel right, I ain't trying to do like I was in my 20s. I've been there. I'm not doing that.
That is like the best. That is, I call that your inner GPS system. Like use it, lean into, like your gut is literally your inner GPS. Like seriously.
Yeah. So let's talk about how, because you shared some good resources and just, you know, based upon your overall experience. How can, you know, those who are building businesses, I'm talking specifically about those big dreamers, right? Like you and I, how can we better support the well-being? You mentioned some tips of those who are looking to support us on this journey. The staff members, community members that we want to work with, agencies, you know, corporations that we're looking to partner with. How can we do better with that? And how can we support?
How can we support the agencies better?
Right. So we're a part of the ecosystem, right? And we are training from our experience, from what we've seen in the marketplace. How do we support the ecosystem of being well, right? Because when I hear wellness, right, I mean, shout out to all the young folks, right, who have given us the freedom. And I'm gonna say it honestly, because I just turned 50, so I'm of whatever that means, of age, right? But when I think about having open conversations about wellness, right? I saw my therapist. That's so common now, where before, back in the day, it used to be like, I saw a therapist and like everybody ghosting you because of you're trying to get well, but it wasn't popular. So how
Yeah.
do we support the ecosystem and supporting those in leadership spaces, those who are entrepreneurs, to know that it's okay to do you and to be okay?
Yeah. It's interesting you say that, because I'm sitting here thinking, and like, you know, and even seeing like how I started to get into more like corporate organizations and agencies, and you know, like looking at, I'm supporting them in that way. It starts with you. It really does. And people will see that. So even going back to now, it's becoming more popular and stuff, like, you know, hearing someone go to therapy doesn't sound like, what's wrong with you?
Right.
Like no one, not, I would say it has still some stigmas for some who's a little bit behind. But as I was talking with you a little bit before, like I've been doing this work since like 2013, like in some, and even before that, 24 plus years, because I was studying nursing. Like I've always been in the space of health and wellness, right? But I was saying to you a little earlier when we were talking before we started here, that the pandemic for me was the best thing I've seen, like seeing and hearing people wanting to pay attention, people realizing certain habits and stuff that they had or they wasn't realizing. So it starts with you, like, and people seeing that, because if people don't get it, they don't get it, but you have to be the walking, talking example of it. So it shows and shines out. So, I mean, it starts by how can you, because you can't support anyone. You can't like pour into anything from an empty cup, right? And this living wellness lifestyle, right? And it's not the matter that you have to be like super perfect and that, but you have to embody some sense of practice of this, walking this path yourself, like, you know, practicing living well, being well, self-awareness, self-care, you know, living these things yourself and prioritizing and caring yourself. It's like self-worthiness really comes into space. And the more you do that, the more it starts to attract the people of need of that. I just, like when we talk about energy and magnets, like it how can you do that if you know, I mean, if I sit here and I never prioritize, not to say I don't struggle sleeping at times, I don't struggle, you know, with different things in my own path or walk of life, but I really take myself serious with being well so I could show up more, right? And feel well while I'm doing it, because, and then being mindful of that, right? So I think it's that, as well as delegation and having a team. Like the more that you have a team and other like people to support, because we're only one person. So it takes on both ends. It takes from us that's willing to support these organizations, and it takes for them giving us a chance. Y'all give us a chance. Like, you know, like actually be open, because a lot of times we're answering the questions and the things you need, like, you know, the challenges that you're having. So it comes from both ends of reciprocity, but reciprocity with ourselves and then reciprocity amongst each other, from us who are the business service providers, as well as the organizations, the people, the agencies that need that support.
Do you go to church?
It's stewed in me. I grew up Christian, but not, I've been learning, is it called omnism? Like I have like a belief in all. I'm very philosophical. So I like hearing things from all like walks of life and religions and forms. So I consider myself a Christian and grew up in Christian churches, but yeah, no, I'm like,
well,
I
yeah, I asked, it was supposed to be a joke. There's always somebody in the audience like, you preaching good, Pastor.
The church girl. Listen, I say it all the time, like people who are in my space, especially in my community, there's times we'll talk and, you know, spirit moves, and I'm like, I'm about to take out my tambourine.
Right.
You know, it's the spirit moves.
I love how you are connecting, you know, all the components that a lot of times we just don't, I mean, I'm guilty of it. We just don't tap in because we feel like we need to, whatever the need is, but the real need is us and our overall care. So as we wrap up, because I invite me on your show when you about to do it again, because this was juicy. But think about 3 things for those who have listened, want to do good for themselves, their community, and their business. 3 tips, realistic tips to help them to become well and make wellness an overall strategy. Because what I heard is a strategic roadmap to wellness. I know y'all heard it too.
Yeah. Okay, so to break this down into three, I love that you said three, and I believe there's so much power in three. If we look at many different theologies and religion, they do talk about three: the Father, Son, Spirit, right? That's mind, body, spirit. So to really be in a sense of realistic three, think about that. Like, what is one thing that you can be able to support yourself mentally? What is one thing that you can support yourself, spiritually? What is one thing that you can support yourself physically, right? And to keep it simple, now this walk goes for all, and then there may be people who are driven in one category more. Like for me, how I got into this, it started with the physical, right? I started getting into fitness. I unfortunately had family members who like passed away super young and made me think more. So, and then I started having health complications. So I would say as quick and dirty as possible. When it comes to the mind, read, right? Read something that inspires and sparks your mind. When it comes to the body, don't ever underestimate a walk. Sometimes people think they have to do these hard hit workouts and, all these things, but anything that can make you feel a state of movement and breathing. Your breathing has so much power, and it helps with your stress level, especially for those who are like burnt out and stressed. So physical, get a good walk in. And if you want to take it from there and exercise other things, great. You want to start practicing breath work, great. And then, your spiritual, that depends on the person and what you want to do. But breath work also falls into that, like, meditation, breath work practices, there's fasting, your nutrition has a lot to do with your physical. So yes, tend to your mind, body, and spirit and pick one doable task. Because as much as I talk, and this can be a lot, like understand that you're not supposed to get all this stuff now. That's why we have a lifetime. We can't get everything. So if you pick one thing that is realistic, I always say anything we do, I keep it holistic, realistic, and simplistic. With where you are, what you can stick to, not what you can stick to for 20 days, 21 days, 30 days, 90 days, something that is very doable. And you can see you do everything, you could keep up and maintain and build from there, is what's the one in each category that you can stick with. So I'll share mine if that helps too.
Do tell. Yes.
So mine is super simple. Like something that sparks my mind and helps me to, because like a lot of times, especially as an entrepreneur, we have a to-do list, right? And if we don't mark those to-do lists, we're always kind of like, oh, I didn't do anything. I start, and people who might have heard I don't know if he was in the Marines that spoke at the graduation. I start with one accomplishment: make my bed, right? Shower, hygiene, drinking water. Like those are like my three, and then movement. Like, you know what I mean? So those are like my three things that I start with, that I'm like, oh, okay, I'm inspired. I have stuff I could do, and then just start building from there. And then I take a lot of mental load off of my mind. I stopped trying to make myself feel like I have to get it all done. Something's not going to get done, and I'm okay with that. But I write down my most 6 important things that I can do, from personal to business. And I would say 9 out of 10, I get those things done.
That sounds very doable. Lauren, thank you. This was good. But before we cut ties, right? I got 3, maybe 4 rapid responses. It's really usually like one word, and I'm curious about. Let me know when you're ready.
All right, let me get some water.
It's coming rapid. Hot. It's like popcorn. Popcorn. What's your favorite borough in the city?
Harlem. All day. Sorry. This is where I'm from.
All right. Harlem in the building.
Well, Manhattan, technically,
but it's really Harlem. Okay, accept it. Sneakers or shoes?
Sneakers.
Pizza or burgers?
Pizza.
Smoothies or ice cream?
Ooh, that's hard, but smoothies.
Okay. 3 years. In 3 years, where is Hervival going to be?
In 3 years, I believe Hervival will be a household name.
Amen. Amen.
Of women actually knowing and living like I just feel like Hervival is a way of living and being, and it will be a household name that women learn to prioritize themselves through that.
All right, Lauren. I want to thank you so much for joining today.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me.
This was, I love when I have juicy conversations, right? You know, it makes me feel full. And just because I've been in business doesn't mean that I'm not actively learning from each and every individual that I have the good pleasure of interviewing. So Lauren, where can we find you? Information is scrolling at the bottom for those who are watching in video, but where can we find you, Lauren?
Yes. Well, first and foremost, Anita, thank you for having me. And I appreciate that you opened this conversation, because like it's hard for me to not talk about all three parts of ourselves, you know, and to understand that is very non-denominational. You pick to choose what denomination that you want to move with it. But I appreciate this conversation that we can like fully and authentically talk about that. So thank you for having me. And where you can find me, I am Lauren L.C. Wells. There's a bunch of Lauren Wells out there. Lauren L.C. Wells on LinkedIn. I hang on LinkedIn a lot. And then on social media, Thrive with LC. And then for Hervival, you can look up Hervival on LinkedIn, Facebook, and on Instagram, we're hervival.co. And then that's our website as well, hervival.co.
I would love to have you back, please, and thank you. So thank you for joining, Lauren.
Thank you.
All right, take good care. Sending you virtual kisses. All right, bye-bye. I got to get good at that. Let me see.
Well, the kids are doing it a different way. I don't know. You got to ask little Miss CEO, your daughter. I think they do it different. And then I heard that this is another one. I'm the cool auntie that's trying to learn, but this is easy for me. Oh. Yep.
Mine is coming out with hearts.
I know, that's so cool. I can't get mine to do that.
I don't know what's happening here, but yes, all love. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. Take good care.
Thank you.
All right, friends. This was good. All in my belly, right? But I want to thank Lauren for coming, showing up. And I wanted to share just some tips that I jotted down. So I hope you took some notes. This will be on replay on YouTube. It's going to be plugged in on LinkedIn at 11375. And we air the episodes at 7:05 on Mondays. But I wanted to just share, like, they were so realistic, so useful. Lauren's tips: read, walk, meditate, fasting, tend to the mind, body, and spirit, and stick to one thing out of those specific categories. How useful and how fun is that, friends, right? You cannot ask for more, because sometimes, as was mentioned from our OG coach and expert, that sometimes we want to take on too much, and it will be just too much. And a lot of times we may not get it all done, but if we can stick to the one thing out of each category, it will help us to become overall or improve our overall wellness. So shout out to Lauren for coming through. Looking forward to having her come back when her schedule aligns. So don't forget, good friends, right, as we are entering into this space, these different spaces, that we always have lots of goodness to share. We have a number of opportunities, workshops that are coming up, namely a couple of webinars that I'm going to share. As things come up, we are actively sharing and teaching small business owners about providing tools and strategies and connecting in different spaces. And so if you are interested in joining the webinars, you can, right? And it's available. And guess what? It's made available at no cost to you. Not that we're out here selling free.com, but if you're there, you're interested, please do connect. It's not an issue. The other thing I want to share is, just like Lauren took the opportunity to do so, I want to tell you that we still have time and space for the Real Journey of Entrepreneurship. We're looking for guests to come on and share their truth, right? I love learning from other individuals, and what the feedback that we're getting, the audience and the community of 11375 does as well. So, good friends, please don't forget to like, share, and follow us at 11375. Please do not hesitate to join us for another episode of 11375. And thank you for joining us. Toodles. Bye-bye. This week I'm thinking about how dope it is to be in business for myself. Self-employment, business ownership, entrepreneurship, all that good stuff. And why I chose to be in that space. Actually, it wasn't my choice. It was something that I was forced into. But as I'm here in this space, I really think it's dope because I am creating things that I imagine, things that I write on a piece of paper, but it also helps to create, after the number of failures, a real boost of confidence that I have the ability to take something off of a piece of paper, take something that I typed in my phone, and then create it. Your mind is your biggest flex. Welcome to 11375. My name is Anita Pierce, and I am your Chief Experience Officer. At 11375, we offer strategic alignment solutions specific to you and your business goals, and also connecting everything with social impact. So if you are looking for a really amazing organization where we help you to focus your strategy and connecting it with social impact, please do not hesitate to reach out to us. We are on all the social platforms, and you can contact us at 11375.